Senior Chief Petty Officer Ryan "Hawk" Daniels had seen a lot of evil in his 15 years as a Navy SEAL. He'd faced terrorists, warlords, and human traffickers across 3 continents. But nothing had quite prepared him for what he discovered on a sunny Tuesday afternoon in La Jolla, California. Ryan was on medical leave, recovering from a shoulder injury sustained during a mission in Yemen. The doctor said he'd be cleared for duty in another month, but for now, he was stuck doing light physical therapy and trying not to go crazy with boredom. His K9 partner, a Belgian Malinois named Titan, had been retired after the same mission, not injured, just aging out at 9 years old after 7 years of distinguished service. They were jogging along a beach trail, enjoying the rare downtime, when Titan suddenly froze. His ears went rigid, his body tensed, and a low growl rumbled from his chest. Ryan immediately went on alert, his hand instinctively moving toward his hip where his weapon would normally be holstered. But this wasn't a combat zone, and he was unarmed except for the phone in his pocket. "What is it, boy?" Ryan asked quietly. Titan pulled toward a narrow path that led away from the beach, up into the hills where expensive mansions overlooked the Pacific. The dog was insistent, almost frantic, his training overriding years of discipline. Ryan hesitated. Technically, they were trespassing if they left the public trail. But Titan had never given a false alert in his entire career. If the dog sensed something wrong, there was something wrong. "All right," Ryan murmured. "Show me." They followed the path for about 10 minutes, climbing steadily until they reached a high wall topped with security cameras and warning signs. The wall surrounded what must be a massive estate. Ryan could see the top of a modern mansion beyond it, all glass and steel and ostentatious wealth. Titan led him along the wall to a spot where a drainage culvert passed underneath. The dog squeezed through, clearly expecting Ryan to follow. "Titan, no," Ryan started, but the dog was already through, and Ryan could hear him barking on the other side. Not his attack bark, but his alert bark. The one that meant he'd found something important. Ryan cursed under his breath, looked around to make sure no one was watching, and squeezed through the culvert. He emerged on perfectly manicured grounds, with sculpted gardens and a pool that probably cost more than Ryan would earn in 10 years. He found Titan standing outside what looked like a pool house or guest cottage, still barking. The building was separated from the main mansion, hidden behind tall hedges. "Titan, quiet," Ryan commanded, and the dog immediately fell silent, though his body remained rigid with tension. Ryan approached the pool house carefully. It had no windows, which was odd. And as he got closer, he heard something that made his blood run cold. Whimpering. Painful, desperate whimpering. An animal in distress. Ryan tried the door, locked. He pressed his ear against it and heard more clearly now, multiple dogs, whining and pacing, the sound of animals in cages. What the hell was going on here? Ryan pulled out his phone and considered his options. He could call the police, but what would he tell them? That he'd trespassed onto private property because his dog led him here. That he heard something that might be dogs inside a building he had no legal right to investigate. Before he could decide, he heard voices approaching. Ryan grabbed Titan's collar and pulled him behind the hedges, ducking down just as 2 men came into view. Both wore expensive casual clothes and walked with the confidence of people who owned the place. Or at least worked for someone who did. "Needs to check on them soon," one man was saying in a thick Eastern European accent. "Mr. Volkov is particular about the conditions." "He's not coming until Thursday," the second man replied. "We have time to prep them." They stopped at the pool house door, and the first man pulled out a key. As he opened it, Ryan caught a glimpse inside. Cages. At least a dozen of them, stacked too high. And in each cage, a dog. German shepherds, mostly, though Ryan spotted a few other breeds. All of them were in terrible condition, matted fur, visible ribs, eyes dull with pain and fear. Some had fresh wounds. Others had old scars that suggested chronic abuse. "Jesus Christ," Ryan breathed, too quiet for anyone but Titan to hear. The men went inside, and Ryan heard them talking in Russian now, mixed with the sounds of the dogs cowering and whimpering. One of the men laughed at something, a cruel, cold sound that made Ryan's hands clench into fists. After about 5 minutes, the men emerged, locked the door, and walked back toward the main mansion. Ryan waited until they were gone, then pulled out his phone and started taking photos. The pool house, the main mansion visible beyond the hedges, everything he could document without being seen. Then he called the one person who might know what to do, his former commanding officer, Captain Sarah Mitchell, who now worked as a liaison between military and civilian law enforcement. "Hawk," Mitchell answered on the second ring. "You're supposed to be resting." "Cap, I need help. I just stumbled onto something, animal abuse, maybe worse. Multiple dogs being kept in terrible conditions at a private estate in La Jolla." Mitchell's tone immediately became serious. "Where exactly?" Ryan gave her the location as best he could determine from his GPS. Mitchell was silent for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was tight with concern. "Hawk, that's the estate of Dmitry Volkov. Should that name mean something to me?" "Billionaire. Russian-American businessman with suspected ties to organized crime. We've been trying to build a case against him for years, but he's too well protected. Money, lawyers, connections in high places." Mitchell paused. "If you're on his property right now, you need to leave immediately. Volkov doesn't mess around, people who cross him have a tendency to disappear. Cap, there are dogs in there. Being tortured. I heard the men talking about conditions and prepping them for Volkov. Something bad is happening. I believe you. But Hawk, you're on medical leave, you're trespassing, and you're dealing with someone who can afford the best lawyers in the country. Anything you've seen is inadmissible in court. So what, we just leave them?" Mitchell sighed heavily. "Give me 2 hours. I'll make some calls, see if I can get animal control or the ASPCA involved, maybe convince a judge to issue a warrant. But Ryan, you need to get off that property now. If Volkov's security catches you, this goes from a potential animal abuse case to you being arrested for trespassing and possibly assault if they claim you threatened anyone." Ryan looked at the locked pool house, thinking about the dogs inside. Suffering. Waiting for whatever horror Volkov had planned for them. 2 hours, he said finally. "But Cap, if nothing happens by then, I'm going back." Ryan. 2 hours. That's all I'm giving you. He hung up before Mitchell could argue, then made his way back to the culvert with Titan. They squeezed through and hiked back down to the beach trail, Ryan's mind racing. Dmitry Volkov. Billionaire with mob connections. What was he doing with a building full of abused dogs? Ryan spent the 2 hours researching Volkov online. What he found made his stomach turn. Volkov was a self-made billionaire who'd emigrated from Russia in the 1990s and built a fortune in real estate and import-export businesses. On paper, he was a legitimate businessman and philanthropist, donating millions to various charities and political campaigns. But dig a little deeper, and darker patterns emerged. Volkov had been investigated multiple times for money laundering, racketeering, and suspected involvement in organized crime. Nothing ever stuck, witnesses recanted, evidence disappeared, cases fell apart before reaching trial. There were also rumors, unsubstantiated but persistent, that Volkov was involved in illegal animal trading. Exotic pets sold to wealthy buyers who didn't care about import laws or animal welfare. Some reports suggested he might be connected to dogfighting rings, though again, nothing had ever been proven. Ryan's phone rang. Mitchell. "Tell me you got a warrant," Ryan said. "Not exactly. I got animal control to agree to do a welfare check, but they need probable cause before they can enter private property. Right now, all we have is your testimony as a trespasser. So nothing's happening." "Not immediately. But Ryan, I'm working on it. I've got contacts at the FBI who've been trying to nail Volkov for years. If we can prove animal abuse, it might be the opening they need to get warrants for his other activities. How long? Days. Maybe a week. Those dogs don't have a week, Cap. I know. But we have to do this right. If we screw up the legal process, Volkov walks and we'll never get another chance. Ryan paced his small apartment, Titan watching him with concerned eyes. The dog knew something was wrong, could sense Ryan's agitation. I'm going back tonight, Ryan said quietly. Hawk, no. I'm not leaving them there. Whatever Volkov is planning, whatever those men meant about prepping them, it's happening Thursday. That's 2 days away. I'm not letting that happen. Ryan, this is career suicide. If you get caught, then I get caught. But I'm not a SEAL because I'm good at following rules, Cap. I'm a SEAL because I'm willing to do what's necessary when everyone else is saying it's too hard or too risky. He paused. You taught me that. Mitchell was silent for a long moment. Then, I can't officially support this. I know. But hypothetically, if someone were to rescue those animals and deliver them to a veterinary clinic where they could be documented and treated, that would create evidence of abuse. Evidence that could be used to justify a warrant. Hypothetically. And if that someone were to, say, wear gloves and be very careful not to leave fingerprints or DNA evidence, it would be much harder to prove who actually trespassed. Ryan felt a grim smile tug at his mouth. Hypothetically speaking. Be careful, Hawk. Volkov's security is former Spetsnaz. They're not rent-a-cops. Good thing I've got experience dealing with Russian special forces. After hanging up, Ryan began planning. This wasn't a sanctioned military operation, but he could still approach it with military precision. Reconnaissance, infiltration, extraction, exfiltration. Basic special operations procedure. He had gear stored in his apartment, nothing illegal, but enough for what he needed. Night vision goggles. Climbing equipment. A tactical knife. Bolt cutters for the cages. He couldn't take his service weapon, that would be a felony. But he had a personal pistol, legally owned, that he could carry for self-defense if things went sideways. Ryan spent the afternoon studying satellite imagery of Volkov's estate, identifying security camera placements, patrol patterns, entry and exit points. He noted the drainage culvert where he and Titan had entered earlier, but also spotted a section of wall on the property's north side that wasn't covered by cameras, probably because it backed up against a steep hillside that the security team assumed was impassable. They were wrong. At 2,200 hours, Ryan dressed in dark tactical clothing, loaded his gear into a backpack, and looked at Titan. You coming, boy? Titan's tail wagged once. Of course he was coming. Where Ryan went, Titan went. That was the deal. That was the bond. Then let's go save some dogs. The climb up the north hillside was brutal, steep, rocky, covered in loose soil that threatened to send Ryan sliding back down with every step. But he'd climbed worse mountains in Afghanistan, had scaled cliff faces in Syria under enemy fire. This was just physically demanding, not life-threatening. Titan struggled with the climb, his aging joints not as flexible as they'd once been. Ryan had to stop several times to help the dog, lifting him over particularly difficult sections. Getting too old for this, aren't we? Ryan muttered as they finally reached the wall. Titan huffed as if agreeing. The wall was 12 feet high, no problem for Ryan with his climbing gear. He secured a rope, scaled the wall, then carefully lowered a harness for Titan. The dog had been trained for rappelling and climbing during his service years, and though he was rusty, the old training kicked in. Within minutes, they were both inside Volkov's estate, crouched in shadows beside the wall. Ryan activated his night vision goggles and surveyed the grounds. A security guard was visible near the main mansion, making rounds. Another guard was stationed at the front gate. Ryan didn't see anyone near the pool house, but that didn't mean there wasn't surveillance. He moved silently through the manicured gardens, Titan at his side, both of them shadows among shadows. Years of training had made Ryan exceptionally good at moving without being seen, and Titan had been trained for the same stealth operations. They reached the pool house without incident. Ryan tried the door again, still locked, as expected. He pulled out his lock-pick set and went to work. It took 3 minutes, longer than Ryan would have liked, every second feeling like an eternity as he waited for someone to notice them. But finally, the lock clicked open. Ryan eased the door open and slipped inside, Titan following. The smell hit him immediately: waste, fear, infection, neglect. Through his night vision, Ryan could see the cages clearly now. 12 dogs, all German shepherds, all in various states of abuse and neglect. Some had open wounds. Others had patches of fur missing. All of them were terribly thin. And all of them were watching him with eyes that held either terror or a desperate, heartbreaking hope. "It's okay," Ryan whispered, though he knew they couldn't understand. "You're getting out of here." He started with the first cage, using his bolt cutters on the lock. Inside was a male German shepherd, probably 2 or 3 years old, with scars across his face and neck. The dog cringed away when Ryan opened the cage door. "Easy, buddy. I'm here to help." It took several minutes of patient coaxing before the dog would come out. Ryan checked him over quickly: malnourished, dehydrated, multiple old injuries. But alive. Salvageable. Ryan moved to the next cage, then the next, freeing each dog and doing quick assessments. Some were in better condition than others, but all showed signs of systematic abuse. In the 8th cage, Ryan found the worst case yet. A female German shepherd, maybe 4 years old, lay curled in the corner of her cage. She didn't even lift her head when Ryan opened the door. Her breathing was shallow and labored, and even in the green-tinted view of his night vision goggles, Ryan could see she was in bad shape. Her back legs were twisted at wrong angles, broken, maybe multiple times, and never properly set. Her ribs showed through matted fur. And her eyes, when Ryan gently touched her head, were dull with pain and defeat. "What did they do to you?" Ryan breathed. The dog whimpered softly, and Ryan felt rage building in his chest. What kind of monster would do this to an innocent animal? What possible reason could justify this level of cruelty? He gathered the injured dog carefully in his arms. She was so light, so fragile. She should have weighed 60 or 70 pounds, Ryan estimated she weighed maybe 40. "You're coming with me," Ryan told her. "All of you are coming with me." But as he looked at the 12 dogs now freed from their cages, reality crashed down. How was he supposed to get 12 traumatized, injured dogs over a 12-foot wall and down a steep hillside? He couldn't. Which meant he needed another exit strategy. Ryan pulled out his phone and called Mitchell again. "I've got the dogs," he said without preamble. "But I need extraction. There's too many, and at least one is too injured to move on her own." "Ryan, where are you right now?" "Inside the pool house. On Volkov's property. With 12 rescued German shepherds." Mitchell cursed creatively. Okay. Give me 15 minutes. I'm calling in every favor I have. Get to the front gate. I'll have animal control there with a warrant, or the closest thing to it I can arrange on short notice. What about Volkov's security? Try not to shoot anyone. It'll make the paperwork much harder." Ryan hung up and looked at his four-legged charges. 12 dogs, all scared, all hurt, all looking at him like he was their last hope. "All right," he said, more to himself than to them. "Let's do this the hard way." He opened the pool house door and started herding the dogs outside. Most followed readily, desperate to escape their prison. A few were too scared and had to be coaxed. Ryan carried the severely injured female, while Titan, bless his old heart, helped herd the others, using his training to keep them grouped together. They made it about halfway to the front gate before the security lights came on. "Stop right there," a voice shouted in heavily accented English. "You are trespassing. Put down the dog and get on the ground." Ryan kept walking, the injured shepherd in his arms, Titan and the other dogs around him. 2 security guards approached, weapons drawn. Not guns, Ryan noted, tasers. They wanted him alive for questioning. "I said get down," the guard repeated. "Can't do that," Ryan replied calmly. "These dogs need medical attention. I'm taking them out of here." "You are stealing Mr. Volkov's property." "These aren't property. They're living beings who've been tortured. And I'm not leaving without them." The guards exchanged glances, clearly uncertain. This wasn't a scenario they trained for, one man, injured dog in his arms, calmly refusing to comply. One guard spoke rapidly into his radio, probably calling for backup. Ryan kept walking, betting that they wouldn't taser him while he was carrying an obviously injured animal. The optics would be terrible if any of this became public. They were still 50 yards from the front gate when a van screeched to a halt outside the property. Ryan saw Mitchell jump out of the passenger seat, followed by several people in animal control uniforms. "Open the gate," Mitchell shouted, waving what looked like official papers. "We have a warrant for animal welfare inspection." The guards looked confused, torn between stopping Ryan and dealing with the official-looking people outside their gate. Ryan made the decision for them. He started running, as much as he could while carrying a dog and coordinating with Titan to keep the other dogs moving. The pack of German shepherds followed, instinct driving them toward possible freedom. "Stop," one guard yelled, but Ryan was already at the gate. The electronic gate started to open. Mitchell must have convinced someone to hit the controls. Ryan squeezed through as soon as there was room, the dogs flooding after him. Mitchell and the animal control officers immediately began gathering the dogs, checking them, loading them into the van. Ryan gently placed the injured female in the van's back, where a veterinarian was waiting. "She's in bad shape," Ryan told the vet. "Broken legs, severe malnutrition, possible internal injuries." The vet nodded grimly, already beginning examination. Volkov's security guards had followed to the gate but stopped there, clearly unsure if their authority extended beyond the property line. One was talking animatedly on his phone, probably to Volkov himself. Mitchell grabbed Ryan's arm. "We need to go. Now. Before Volkov's lawyers arrive." "What about the evidence?" "The pool house. I've got it covered. The animal control team has enough to start an official investigation. But you need to disappear before Volkov figures out who you are." Ryan looked back at the estate, at the pool house where 12 dogs had suffered for God knows how long. What was he doing to them? Ryan asked. "Why?" Mitchell's expression was grim. "I don't know yet. But we're going to find out." They drove away in a convoy, the animal control van with the dogs, Mitchell's car with Ryan and Titan. Behind them, Volkov's mansion receded into the distance, its lights blazing against the dark sky. Ryan looked down at his hands. They were shaking, adrenaline come down, the realization of what he'd just done, what he'd risked. "You did good," Mitchell said quietly. "You saved them." "I saved them from that place," Ryan corrected. "But what comes next? Volkov has money, power, connections. He'll fight this. Let him fight. This time, we've got evidence. We've got rescued animals who can be examined and documented. We've got a starting point." Mitchell glanced at him. "Thanks to you." Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then, "The female. The one I carried out. She's not going to make it, is she?" "I don't know," Mitchell admitted. "But she has a chance now. Before tonight, she had none." Ryan nodded, accepting that truth. Sometimes a chance was all you could give someone. Sometimes it had to be enough. But as they drove toward the emergency veterinary clinic where the dogs would be treated, Ryan made himself a promise. He wasn't done with Dmitry Volkov. Not by a long shot. Whatever the billionaire had been doing to those dogs, whatever sick game he'd been playing, Ryan was going to expose it all. And then he was going to make sure Volkov paid for every moment of suffering he'd caused. That was a promise. And Ryan "Hawk" Daniels always kept his promises. The emergency veterinary clinic was chaos when they arrived. 12 traumatized dogs, all requiring immediate medical attention, all terrified and in pain. The staff worked with impressive efficiency, but Ryan could see the shock and horror on their faces as they examined each animal. Ryan refused to leave. Mitchell had urged him to go home, to distance himself from what was now an official investigation, but he couldn't. Not yet. Not until he knew which dogs would survive. He sat in the waiting room with Titan at his feet, watching through glass windows as veterinarians worked on the German shepherds. The severely injured female he'd carried out, the one who'd been lying so still in her cage, had been rushed into surgery immediately. Dr. Lisa Chen, the clinic's director, emerged after 2 hours. She looked exhausted, and her scrubs were stained with blood. "Mr. Daniels," she said. "I'm Dr. Chen. Captain Mitchell told me you're the one who rescued these dogs." "I just got them out," Ryan replied. "You're the ones actually saving them." Dr. Chen sat down heavily in the chair beside him. "I've been a veterinarian for 20 years. I've seen abuse cases before, neglect, fighting dogs, hoarding situations. But this..." She shook her head. "This is different. This is systematic. Intentional. Someone planned what was done to these dogs." "Can you tell me what was done?" "Multiple things. Several of the dogs show signs of having bones deliberately broken and allowed to heal incorrectly. Others have burn marks in patterns that suggest torture rather than accidents. All of them are severely malnourished, but the malnutrition is controlled. They were being kept at specific weight levels, not just starved randomly." Ryan felt his jaw clench. Someone was experimenting on them. "That's my assessment, yes. Testing pain tolerance, studying healing processes, documenting trauma responses." Dr. Chen's voice was tight with anger. Whoever did this was treating these dogs like laboratory specimens. "What about the female? The one in surgery?" Dr. Chen's expression became even more troubled. "She's alive, but barely. Both back legs were broken, probably with a blunt instrument, and never set properly. She has 3 fractured ribs, a ruptured spleen, and evidence of repeated blunt force trauma to her head and body. Mr. Daniels, someone beat this dog almost to death, then kept her alive just to do it again." Ryan's hands clenched into fists. He wanted to hit something, wanted to go back to Volkov's estate and make the billionaire feel even a fraction of the pain he'd inflicted on these innocent animals. "Will she survive?" Ryan asked. "I don't know. We've stabilized her, removed the ruptured spleen, set the brakes as best we can. But she's lost a lot of blood, and her body has been through trauma that would kill a lesser dog. The next 48 hours will tell us if she has the will to live." "She does," Ryan said with certainty. "She survived this long. She's a fighter." Dr. Chen studied him. "Captain Mitchell said you're a Navy SEAL. That you have experience with military working dogs." "Titan was my partner for 7 years," Ryan said, gesturing to the Malinois at his feet. "Best partner I ever had." "Then you understand the bond. The loyalty these dogs have." Dr. Chen glanced toward the surgical suite. "That female, we've been calling her Hope, since we don't know her real name. She's shown remarkable resilience. When we started the 4, when we began treating her wounds, she didn't fight us. It's like she understands we're trying to help." "German shepherds are intelligent," Ryan said. "She knows." Dr. Chen stood. "You should go home, Mr. Daniels. Get some rest. There's nothing you can do here right now, and we'll be working on these dogs for hours yet. I'll stay, Ryan said. Until I know Hope made it through surgery. Dr. Chen looked like she wanted to argue, but something in Ryan's expression stopped her. All right. I'll update you when we know more. Hope survived the surgery. Barely. Ryan was allowed into the recovery room to see her at dawn. She lay on a padded table, her breathing assisted by machines, her broken legs wrapped in splints and casts. She looked so small, so fragile, so unlike the powerful, noble animals German shepherds were supposed to be. Hey there, Hope, Ryan said softly, approaching the table. You made it through. You're tougher than you look. Hope's eyes opened slightly at the sound of his voice. She couldn't move, too weak, too sedated, but her eyes tracked him as he came closer. Ryan gently placed his hand on her head, careful not to touch any injuries. I'm Ryan. I got you out of there. And I promise, no one is ever going to hurt you again. Hope's tail moved. Just a tiny twitch, barely perceptible. But it was there. A response. A sign that somewhere inside this broken body, there was still a spark of life, of hope. That's right, Ryan whispered, his throat tight with emotion. You fight. You hang on. Because I'm going to make sure the bastard who did this to you pays for it. That's a promise. A veterinary tech appeared in the doorway. Mr. Daniels. There's a Detective Martinez here to see you. He says it's urgent. Ryan gave Hope one last gentle pat, then followed the tech to a private office where a tired-looking detective in his 40s waited. Mr. Daniels, I'm Detective Carlos Martinez, SDPD. I need to ask you some questions about last night. I figured you would, Ryan replied, sitting down. What do you want to know? Let's start with how you came to be on Dmitry Volkov's property. Ryan told the story truthfully, the jog with Titan, the dogs alert, following him to the estate, hearing the dogs in distress. He left out nothing except Mitchell's involvement in the extraction. That was her career to protect, not his to expose. Martinez listened without interrupting, taking notes. When Ryan finished, the detective leaned back in his chair. You know you committed multiple crimes last night, right? Trespassing, breaking and entering, theft. Rescue, Ryan interrupted. Not theft. Those dogs were being tortured. I believe you. And the veterinary reports support that. But legally, Volkov owned those dogs. Taking them without permission is theft, regardless of the circumstances. So arrest me, Ryan said flatly. I'm not going to apologize for saving innocent animals from a sadist. Martinez smiled slightly. I'm not here to arrest you. Not yet, anyway. I'm here because Dmitry Volkov is a person of interest in several ongoing investigations, money laundering, racketeering, suspected involvement in organized crime. We've been trying to build a case against him for 3 years, but he's too well insulated. Rich, powerful, connected. So what you did last night, bringing those dogs to an emergency vet clinic where their injuries could be documented, that gives us probable cause for a warrant. We can now search Volkov's estate looking for evidence of animal cruelty. And once we're on the property legally, we might find evidence of his other activities. Ryan sat forward. You're saying those dogs could be the key to taking down Volkov? Maybe. If we play this right. Martinez pulled out his phone and showed Ryan a photo. Recognize this place? It was the pool house where Ryan had found the dogs. Yeah. That's where they were kept. We got a warrant this morning and searched it. Want to know what we found? Tell me. Security camera footage. Volkov had cameras inside the pool house, recording everything. Martinez's expression darkened. Ryan, we've got video of Volkov personally torturing those dogs. Beating them. Burning them. Breaking their legs while they screamed. All of it documented, all of it with clear timestamps showing this has been going on for at least 6 months. Ryan felt sick. Why? What possible reason? We don't know yet. But we've got experts analyzing the footage, and they think Volkov was conducting some kind of experiment. Testing the dog's pain tolerance, documenting their responses to different types of trauma. Martinez paused. There's more. We found journals. Written records of each dog, each session, detailed notes about reactions and recovery times. He was treating them like lab rats, Ryan said, his voice hollow. Worse than lab rats. Because lab animals are at least supposed to be treated humanely under federal law. What Volkov was doing, there's no scientific justification, no research purpose. This was torture for its own sake. Ryan stood, pacing the small office. What happens now? Now we arrest Volkov on animal cruelty charges. It's not the racketeering or money laundering charge we wanted, but it's enough to hold him. And once he's in custody, we can dig deeper into his other activities. Will it stick? He's got money for lawyers. He's got money for lawyers, but we've got video evidence of him personally committing felony animal abuse. Multiple felonies, actually. And we've got 12 traumatized dogs with injuries that match what's on the video. Martinez smiled grimly. Even the best lawyers can't argue with that. I want to be there, Ryan said suddenly. When you arrest him. I want to see his face. Martinez shook his head. Can't do that. You're a witness, and technically you're also a suspect in the trespassing and theft charges. Rescue charges. You being there would complicate things legally. Ryan wanted to argue, but he understood. This had to be done by the book, everything proper and documented, giving Volkov's lawyers no room to maneuver. Fine, Ryan said. But detective? Make sure he knows why he's being arrested. Make sure he knows those dogs are safe now. Make sure he understands he failed. Martinez nodded. I'll make sure he knows. Dmitry Volkov was arrested that afternoon at his office in downtown San Diego. The footage made national news, a billionaire being led out in handcuffs while reporters shouted questions about animal abuse and torture. Ryan watched it on TV from the veterinary clinic, where he'd returned to check on Hope and the other dogs. The female shepherd was still critical but stable, breathing on her own now, responding to pain medication. Dr. Chen found Ryan in Hope's recovery room. You've been here all day. Don't you have somewhere else to be? Not really, Ryan admitted. I'm on medical leave. Nothing to do but physical therapy and waiting to heal. Well, you're welcome to stay, but I should warn you, forming attachments to these dogs is dangerous. They're evidence in a criminal case. Once they're healthy enough, they'll be impounded by the court until the trial is over. What happens to them after the trial? Depends. If Volkov is convicted, the dogs will probably be seized as part of his assets and adopted out. If he's somehow acquitted, they go back to him. Like hell they do, Ryan said flatly. Dr. Chen sighed. Mr. Daniels, I understand how you feel. But that's not up to us. That's for the courts to decide. Ryan looked at Hope, at this dog he'd carried out of hell, who'd survived surgery and was fighting to heal. I'm not letting her go back to that monster. I don't care what the court says. Then you'd better hope the prosecution builds a solid case. Over the next 2 weeks, Ryan visited the clinic daily. He watched the 12 rescued German shepherds slowly heal, their physical wounds closing, their weight returning to healthy levels. Some recovered faster than others, the younger, less traumatized dogs bouncing back with the resilience of youth. But the older ones, the ones who'd suffered longer, had a harder time. They flinched at sudden movements. They cowered when anyone raised their voice. They bore the psychological scars of abuse even as their bodies healed. Hope was the worst. Even after her physical wounds began to heal, she remained withdrawn, barely responding to the veterinary staff. She ate only when hand-fed. She didn't wag her tail or show interest in toys or other dogs. "It's like she's given up," Dr. Chen told Ryan during one of his visits. "Her body is healing, but her spirit is broken." "Then we fix her spirit," Ryan said. "It's not that simple. It never is. But that doesn't mean we stop trying." Ryan started spending hours in Hope's recovery kennel, just sitting with her, talking to her, letting her get used to his presence without expecting anything in return. Titan joined him, lying quietly near Hope, offering the kind of calm, patient companionship that only another dog could provide. Slowly, incrementally, Hope began to respond. A flick of her ears when Ryan spoke. A slight wag of her tail when Titan came close. Small signs that she was coming back to life. "You're good with her," Dr. Chen observed one day. "Have you thought about adopting her? Once the legal issues are resolved." "Every day," Ryan admitted. "But I don't know if I'm the right person. I'm active-duty military, at least until my shoulder is fully healed. I deploy for months at a time. Hope needs stability, not someone who's going to disappear on deployments." "You could retire," Dr. Chen suggested. "You've done 15 years, you could put in your papers and be done." Ryan had thought about that too. More than he cared to admit. The shoulder injury had been a wake-up call, a reminder that he wasn't invincible, that eventually his luck would run out. But being a SEAL wasn't just a job. It was an identity, a purpose, everything Ryan had built his adult life around. Who was he if he wasn't Ghost, the operator who never failed a mission? "I don't know," Ryan said honestly. "I don't know who I am outside of the teams." "Then maybe it's time to find out," Dr. Chen said gently. "Before the choice is taken away from you." The preliminary hearing for Volkov's case was held 3 weeks after his arrest. Ryan attended as a witness, wearing his dress uniform, prepared to testify about what he'd seen and heard at the estate. The courtroom was packed, media, animal rights activists, curious onlookers all crammed in to see the billionaire face justice. Volkov sat at the defense table wearing an expensive suit, his expression calm and confident, flanked by 3 high-priced lawyers. The prosecution presented their evidence methodically. Photos of the dog's injuries. Veterinary reports. And most damning of all, the video footage from inside the pool house. The judge ordered the courtroom cleared of media and spectators before playing the video. The content was too disturbing for public viewing. But Ryan, as a witness, was allowed to stay. He wished he hadn't. The footage showed Volkov in the pool house, dressed in casual clothes, systematically torturing the German shepherds. He worked with clinical precision, taking notes between sessions, documenting each dog's reactions. In one clip, he broke Hope's legs with a metal pipe while she screamed. In another, he burned a different dog with a torch, timing how long before the animal passed out from pain. It was the most evil thing Ryan had ever witnessed. And he'd seen a lot of evil. When the video ended, the courtroom was silent. Even Volkov's lawyers looked shaken. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, removed her glasses and stared at Volkov with undisguised disgust. "Mr. Volkov," she said, her voice cold, "I've presided over hundreds of cases in my career. Murders, rapes, child abuse. But I have never seen anything as deliberately cruel and sadistic as what was just displayed in this courtroom." Volkov's lead attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client." "Sit down, counselor. I'm not finished." The judge replaced her glasses. "Bail is denied. Mr. Volkov will remain in custody until trial. And I'm ordering a full psychiatric evaluation. I want to know what kind of mind could commit these acts." "Your Honor, my client has no criminal record, substantial ties to the community. Your client tortured 12 dogs for 6 months while documenting their suffering. He is clearly a danger to animals and potentially to human beings as well. Bail denied. We'll reconvene in 30 days for trial." The judge's gavel came down, and Volkov was led away in handcuffs. As he passed Ryan, their eyes met for just a moment. Volkov smiled. A small, cold smile that made Ryan's blood run cold. The message was clear: this isn't over. After the hearing, Detective Martinez pulled Ryan aside. "We've got a problem," the detective said quietly. "What kind of problem?" "Volkov's lawyers are filing motions to suppress evidence, claiming illegal search and seizure. They're arguing that because you trespassed to discover the dogs, everything that followed, the rescue, the veterinary examinations, the search warrant, is fruit of the poisonous tree." "That's bullshit," Ryan said. "The exigent circumstances exception. I know, and the DA's office is confident the evidence will stand. But there's more." Martinez looked uncomfortable. "Volkov's making threats. Not openly, not anything we can prove in court. But word on the street is he's put out feelers to his organized crime connections. He wants to know who you are, where you live, who you care about. He's going to come after me. Maybe. Or maybe he's just trying to intimidate you into not testifying." Martinez paused. "Ryan, you should consider protective custody. At least until the trial is over." "No. Ryan. I'm not hiding from this guy. He wants to try something, let him try. I've dealt with worse threats than a billionaire with mob connections. This isn't Afghanistan or Yemen. There are rules here. If you kill someone in self-defense, you're still going to face charges, face trial. Your SEAL training won't be a legal defense." "I understand," Ryan said. "But I'm not backing down." Martinez sighed. "At least be careful. Watch your back. Vary your routes. Let me know if you see anything suspicious." "I will." But as Ryan left the courthouse, he knew Martinez was right to be worried. Volkov wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. The billionaire had built his empire on ruthlessness and intimidation. He wouldn't just let Ryan walk away after destroying his sick experiments. Something was coming. Ryan could feel it in his bones, the same way he could always sense danger in the field. The only question was what form it would take, and whether Ryan would see it coming in time to stop it. The first attempt came 2 nights after the hearing. Ryan was returning to his apartment around 2,200 hours after another visit to the clinic to check on Hope. She was improving steadily, eating on her own now, taking a few painful steps on her healing legs, even showing interest in toys and other dogs. Dr. Chen had pulled Ryan aside before he left. "She's bonded to you," the vet had said. "Did you notice how her whole demeanor changes when you're here? How she watches the door waiting for you?" Ryan had noticed. And it terrified him as much as it warmed his heart. Because bonding meant attachment, and attachment meant pain when they were eventually separated. But he couldn't stay away. Every day, he told himself he'd skip the visit, give Hope space to bond with someone else. And every day, he found himself back at the clinic. Ryan pulled into his apartment complex parking lot and immediately noticed something wrong. His SEAL training kicked in, heightened awareness, threat assessment, tactical analysis. A black SUV was parked 3 spaces from his assigned spot. Engine off but still warm, Ryan could see the heat shimmer through his rearview mirror. 2 men visible in the front seats, trying and failing to look casual. Ryan drove past his parking spot and circled the block, his mind racing. Could be nothing. Could be residents or visitors. But the way they were watching his apartment, the professional stillness of their posture, this was surveillance. Or preparation for something worse. Ryan parked 2 blocks away and approached his apartment on foot, Titan at his side. The old dog sensed his handler's tension and went into alert mode, his training from years of combat operations resurfacing. They came in from the rear of the complex, using shadows and landscaping for cover. Ryan spotted 2 more men, one watching the front entrance of his building, another positioned near the stairwell. 4 hostiles. Professional positioning. Almost certainly armed. Ryan pulled out his phone and called Detective Martinez. "I've got a situation," Ryan said quietly when the detective answered. "For men in tactical positions around my apartment. I'm guessing they're Volkovs." "Where are you now?" "2 buildings over, observing. They haven't made a move yet." "Don't engage. I'm sending units now. Stay out of sight and wait for backup." "Copy that." Ryan found a position with good sight lines and settled in to wait. Titan lay beside him, silent and alert, his body tense with readiness. 20 minutes passed. The men around Ryan's apartment remained in position, clearly waiting for him to arrive. Ryan wondered what their orders were: intimidation, assault, kidnapping. With Volkov's resources, any of those were possible. Then a police cruiser pulled into the complex, lights off but clearly law enforcement. The 4 men scattered immediately, moving with practiced efficiency. The SUV started up and left the parking lot at normal speed, not fleeing, just departing casually like they'd never been waiting. Martinez arrived 10 minutes later in an unmarked car. Ryan met him at his apartment. "They're gone," Ryan said. "Vanished the second your patrol car showed up." "Did you get photos? License plates? SUV plates?" "Already sent them to you." Ryan unlocked his apartment door and did a quick sweep. Nothing disturbed, no signs of entry. "They were waiting for me." For men, professional positioning, clearly trained. "Volkov sent a message," Martinez said grimly. "He knows where you live." "I got the message." "Ryan, you need to take this seriously. These aren't street thugs. Volkov hires former special forces, Spetsnaz, mostly, but also some ex-military from other countries. They're as trained as you are." "Then it'll be a fair fight," Ryan replied with dark humor. "This isn't a joke." "I know it's not. But Martinez, I've been targeted by better killers than whoever Volkov can hire. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Somali pirates, they've all tried to kill me at some point. I'm still here." "They're not." Martinez studied him. "You're confident. But even you can be caught off guard. Even you can be killed if they catch you at the wrong moment. Then I won't give them the wrong moment." Martinez left after making Ryan promise to call immediately if he saw anything else suspicious. Ryan secured his apartment, checked his weapons, and tried to sleep. But his mind kept returning to Hope and the other dogs. If Volkov was willing to go after Ryan, would he target the dogs too? Would he try to destroy the evidence before trial? Ryan called Dr. Chen's personal cell phone. "Dr. Chen, it's Ryan. Sorry to call so late." "It's fine. Is everything okay? I need you to upgrade security at the clinic. Specifically around the evidence dogs, Hope and the others from Volkov's estate." There was a pause. "Ryan, what's going on?" "Volkov sent people to my apartment tonight. They scattered when police showed up, but the message was clear: he knows where I am, and he's not going to let this case proceed without a fight." "You think he'd target the dogs?" "I think he's desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. Those dogs are the evidence that will put him away. Without them, it's just video footage that his lawyers will claim is doctored or taken out of context. The dogs' injuries match what's on the video. But if the dogs disappeared, that evidence disappears too." Ryan paused. "Please, Dr. Chen. Extra locks, security cameras, someone monitoring the kennels overnight. Whatever it takes." "I'll make some calls," Dr. Chen said. "And Ryan? Be careful." "Always am." The second attempt came 3 days later, and it was more sophisticated. Ryan was at the clinic visiting Hope when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Daniels?" A woman's voice, professional and efficient. "This is Karen from Pacific Coast Veterinary Specialists. We're calling about your dog Titan. He was brought in about an hour ago after being hit by a car near your apartment complex. Ryan's blood went cold. What? Titan's right here with me. But when he looked around, Titan wasn't in the recovery room where Ryan had left him. The door was slightly ajar. Had Ryan not closed it properly? Sir, we have a Belgian Malinois here with a microchip registered to you. He's in critical condition. You need to come immediately. Ryan's mind raced. This felt wrong. But what if it was true? What if somehow Titan had gotten out, had been hit? I'll be there in 15 minutes, Ryan said, hanging up. He ran through the clinic looking for Titan, his heart pounding. The dog was nowhere in the main building. Ryan burst through the back door into the kennel area and found Titan there, calmly lying in the sun with one of the clinic's resident dogs. Jesus Christ, Ryan breathed, relief flooding through him. Dr. Chen appeared. Ryan? What's wrong? Someone just called claiming Titan was hit by a car and taken to Pacific Coast Veterinary. It was a fake call. They were trying to lure me somewhere. Dr. Chen's expression hardened. That's the third time this week we've had suspicious calls. Someone asking about the German Shepherds, their condition, when they might be released. Volkov's probing for weaknesses, Ryan said. Trying to find a way to get to the dogs or to me. What do we do? We stay vigilant. We don't trust anyone who isn't verified. And we prepare for them to make a real move. Ryan called Martinez and reported the fake call. The detective promised to have patrol units increase their presence around the clinic. But Ryan knew it wasn't enough. Volkov was patient, well-funded, and highly motivated. Eventually, he'd find an opening. The real attack came a week later, at 0300 hours, when the clinic was closed and only a skeleton staff remained for overnight animal monitoring. Ryan wasn't there, he was at his apartment, trying to get a few hours of sleep before another early morning visit to check on Hope. He was awakened by his phone ringing. Dr. Chen, her voice panicked. Ryan, they're here. 3 men broke into the clinic, they're trying to get to the evidence kennels. The line went dead. Ryan was dressed and armed in under 2 minutes. He called 911 as he ran to his car, Titan racing beside him. This is Ryan Daniels reporting a break-in and assault at Coastal Emergency Veterinary Clinic on Harbor Drive. Suspects are armed and attempting to access secured evidence. I'm a Navy SEAL, I'm armed, and I'm en route. The 911 operator tried to tell him to wait for police, but Ryan was already driving, pushing his car faster than was safe or legal through the empty pre-dawn streets. He arrived at the clinic to find a van parked near the back entrance, its rear doors open. Inside, Ryan could hear dogs barking, people shouting. Ryan didn't wait. He went in through the front entrance, Titan at his side, his pistol drawn. Inside, chaos. 2 staff members were on the floor, zip-tied but apparently unharmed. Ryan could hear more commotion from the kennels in back. Titan, search. Ryan commanded, and the dog took off toward the kennels. Ryan followed, moving with tactical precision, weapon up and ready. He rounded a corner and found 3 men in the evidence kennel area. One was using bolt cutters on the kennel doors. The other 2 were trying to load dogs into large crates, the same 12 German Shepherds Ryan had rescued. Hope was in her kennel, cowering in the corner, terror in her eyes. Stop right there. Ryan shouted. Put down the tools and step away from the dogs. The 3 men turned. They were professionals, Ryan could see it in their movements, their lack of panic. 2 drew weapons. Walk away, one said with a thick accent. This not your business. Those are my dogs, Ryan replied. That makes it my business. Your dogs. You steal from Mr. Volkov. We take back what belongs to him. What belongs to him is a cell in federal prison. Now drop your weapons before this gets ugly. The men exchanged glances. Then, moving in coordination, they spread out, a classic tactical formation designed to force Ryan to divide his attention. Ryan backed up slightly, keeping all three in his field of vision. Titan positioned himself at Ryan's side, teeth bared, a low growl building in his chest. "Last warning," Ryan said. "Drop your weapons." One of the men raised his gun. Ryan fired first, 3 shots, center mass, dropping the man before he could get a shot off. The other armed man dove for cover, returning fire wildly. Titan launched himself at the third man, who was going for a weapon. The dog hit him like a missile, bearing him to the ground. The man screamed as Titan's jaws clamped on his arm. Ryan moved on the second armed man, using the kennels for cover. The man was firing blindly, clearly not as professional as his appearance suggested. Panic had set in. Ryan flanked him and put 3 more rounds into his chest. The man went down. Sirens wailed in the distance, police response finally arriving. The third man was still screaming under Titan's assault. Ryan called the dog off, zip-tied the man's hands, and secured him before checking the other 2. Both dead. Clean shots, all within acceptable use of force parameters. Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway, her face pale. "Oh my God. Ryan. Are you okay? Anyone hurt?" "No, they just restrained us. They weren't here to hurt people, just to take the dogs." Ryan looked at the kennels. The dogs were terrified, barking and pacing, but none appeared injured. And Hope was staring at him from her kennel with something like recognition, maybe even gratitude. "It's over," Ryan told Dr. Chen. "The dogs are safe." The police arrived moments later, followed by Martinez. The detective took in the scene, 2 dead men, 1 in custody, Ryan standing calmly with his weapon holstered. "Jesus, Hawk," Martinez breathed. "You okay?" "I'm fine. They were here for the dogs. Tried to take them, probably planning to kill them and dispose of the bodies. I stopped them. I can see that. The investigation took hours." Ryan gave his statement multiple times. The shooting was clearly justified, he'd announced himself, given warnings, only fired when the suspects drew weapons. The presence of the third man, who admitted under questioning that they'd been hired by Volkov to eliminate the evidence, sealed the case. As dawn broke, Martinez pulled Ryan aside. "The DA is filing witness intimidation charges against Volkov. Combined with the animal cruelty charges and now conspiracy to destroy evidence, he's looking at serious time." "How serious?" 20 to 30 years if we can make everything stick." Ryan nodded. It wasn't enough, nothing would be enough to balance the suffering Volkov had caused, but it was something. "What about the dogs?" Ryan asked. "They stay here under guard until the trial." "And Ryan?" "After what happened tonight, I think the judge will fast-track this case. Volkov's too dangerous to let this drag out." The trial was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In that time, Ryan didn't leave the clinic except to sleep at his apartment. He helped Dr. Chen upgrade security, helped train the staff on threat awareness, and spent every available moment with Hope. The German Shepherd was healing remarkably well. Her legs had healed straight, and though she'd always have a slight limp, she could run and play. Her weight had returned to healthy levels. Her coat, once matted and dull, was now glossy and full. But more importantly, her spirit had returned. She wagged her tail when Ryan arrived. She played with toys. She interacted with other dogs. The broken, defeated animal Ryan had carried out of hell was gone, replaced by a dog who was learning to trust again, learning to hope. "She's remarkable," Dr. Chen said, watching Hope play in the exercise yard. "Most dogs with her level of trauma never fully recover. But she's fighting. She's a warrior," Ryan said. "Like all German shepherds. They don't give up." "Neither do you," Dr. Chen observed. "Ryan, have you thought about what happens after the trial? Hope's going to need a permanent home. Someone patient, experienced with traumatized dogs, willing to work with her for however long it takes. Are you suggesting something, Dr. Chen? I'm saying she's already bonded to you. And you're clearly bonded to her. It seems obvious what should happen next. Ryan watched Hope chasing a ball, her tail wagging, joy evident in every movement. He thought about his career, his deployments, his identity as a SEAL. And he thought about the choice Dr. Chen had mentioned weeks ago, finding out who he was outside of the teams before that choice was taken from him. If I adopt Hope, Ryan said slowly, I'd need to retire. I can't deploy for 6 months at a time and leave her. She needs stability. Is that such a bad thing? You've given 15 years to the Navy. You've earned the right to step back. I don't know who I am if I'm not a SEAL. Then maybe it's time to find out, Dr. Chen said gently. Maybe it's time to become whoever Ryan Daniels is supposed to be next. Ryan looked at Hope, at this dog who'd survived hell and was learning to live again. And he made his decision. Okay, he said. If the trial goes our way, if Hope is freed up for adoption, I want her. I'll retire. I'll figure out the civilian thing. Whatever it takes. Dr. Chen smiled. I think that's the best decision you could make. For both of you. The trial lasted 5 days. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, the videos, the veterinary reports, the testimony of Dr. Chen and her staff. Detective Martinez testified about the break-in attempt, about the men hired to destroy evidence. And Ryan testified about what he'd found that night, about Hope's condition, about the systematic torture documented in Volkov's journals. The defense tried everything, claiming the dogs were research animals. They weren't, arguing that Volkov's actions didn't meet the legal definition of torture. They clearly did, suggesting Ryan had planted evidence. The timeline and surveillance footage proved otherwise. Nothing worked. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, their verdict was unanimous on all counts. Guilty. Volkov showed no emotion as the verdict was read. But as he was led away in handcuffs, he looked directly at Ryan and mouthed 2 words, "This isn't over." Ryan held his gaze and mouthed back, "Yes, it is." After the trial, the 12 German Shepherds were officially released from evidence status. Most were adopted by families who'd been following the case, people who wanted to give these survivors a second chance at life. Hope was adopted by Ryan. The paperwork was signed at the clinic, with Dr. Chen serving as witness. When it was done, Dr. Chen handed Ryan Hope's leash. "She's yours now," the vet said. "Take care of her." "I will," Ryan promised. "Always." He'd already submitted his retirement papers to the Navy. He'd served his 20 years, well, 15, but with disability retirement he was being allowed to process out early. In 2 months, he'd be a civilian for the first time since he was 18 years old. The thought terrified him. But every time he looked at Hope, every time the dog leaned against him with complete trust, Ryan knew he was making the right choice. They walked out of the clinic together, Ryan, Hope, and Titan. 3 warriors, all scarred, all healing, all learning how to live with peace instead of war. "What do you think?" Ryan asked Hope as they stood in the parking lot. "Ready to go home?" Hope's tail wagged, and she pressed against his leg. "Yeah," Ryan thought. "Ready to go home." 6 months after Volkov's conviction, Ryan stood in the backyard of the house he'd bought in the hills outside San Diego, watching Hope play with 3 other dogs. The German Shepherd moved with confidence now, only the slightest limp reminding anyone of her past trauma. Titan lay at Ryan's feet, content in his retirement. The old Belgian Malinois had earned his rest, though he still occasionally looked at Ryan with eyes that said he was ready to go back to work if needed. "You've done enough," Ryan told him, scratching the dog's ears. "We both have." The other 2 dogs in the yard, a young German Shepherd named Atlas and a Belgian Malinois named Echo, were Ryan's newest projects. Both had been rescued from abusive situations, both needed rehabilitation and training before they could be adopted out. Because that was what Ryan did now. He'd started a non-profit called Second Chance K9, a rescue and rehabilitation organization specializing in working breed dogs who'd been abused, neglected, or traumatized. He took in dogs that other rescues couldn't handle, dogs that needed the kind of intensive training and patience that only someone with Ryan's background could provide. It had started small, just hope and the space Ryan had bought with his retirement savings. But word spread quickly in the dog rescue community. Within 3 months, Ryan was getting calls from shelters across California, asking if he could take dogs that were considered unadoptable due to trauma or behavioral issues. Ryan took everyone he could handle. He had the training, the experience, the patience, and most importantly, he had Hope, who'd become his co-therapist for the other traumatized dogs. She seemed to understand what they'd been through, seemed able to communicate to them that survival was possible, that humans could be trusted again. She's incredible with them, Dr. Chen had observed during one of her visits to evaluate Ryan's new rescues. It's like she's teaching them how to heal. She learned from the best, Ryan had replied, meaning Dr. Chen, but the vet had smiled and shaken her head. She learned from you, Ryan. You showed her that patience and kindness could overcome trauma. Now she's passing that lesson on. The rescue was growing faster than Ryan had anticipated. He'd hired 2 staff members, both military veterans struggling with PTSD who'd found purpose in working with traumatized dogs. He'd built a proper training facility on his property. And he'd established partnerships with police departments and private security firms who were interested in adopting his rehabilitated dogs as working K9s. You're building something important here, Detective Martinez had told him during a visit. These dogs, most of them would have been euthanized. You're giving them second chances. They're giving me one too, Ryan had replied honestly. Because the work had given Ryan something he'd been missing since retiring, purpose. He wasn't Ghost anymore, the SEAL operator who never failed a mission. But he was finding out that Ryan Daniels, civilian dog trainer and rescue operator, had value too. The nightmares that had plagued him since his combat deployments had decreased. The shoulder that had forced his medical retirement was healing properly. And for the first time in years, Ryan felt like he was building something instead of destroying things in the name of national security. On a warm October afternoon, Ryan received a call from an unexpected source. Mr. Daniels. This is Jennifer Reeves from the San Diego District Attorney's Office. I'm calling about Dmitry Volkov. Ryan's good mood evaporated. What about him? He's in prison. Not anymore. He posted bail 3 days ago while his lawyers appeal the conviction. What? Ryan felt ice flood his veins. How is that possible? The judge denied bail. The appeals court overturned that decision, citing Volkov's lack of prior criminal record and his ties to the community. He's out on a $10 million bond while the appeal proceeds. So he's free. With conditions. He has to wear an ankle monitor, can't leave the county, has to surrender his passport. But yes, technically he's free until the appeal is decided. How long will that take? Could be months. Maybe a year. Reeves paused. Mr. Daniels, I'm calling because we wanted you to be aware. Volkov made some concerning statements when he was released, nothing overtly threatening, but implied suggestions that he wasn't finished with you or the dogs. He's going to come after us, Ryan said flatly. We don't know that. His lawyers would be idiots to let him do anything that would jeopardize his appeal. But we wanted you to be cautious. After hanging up, Ryan stood for a long moment, thinking. Then he pulled out his phone and made several calls. First, to Martinez. Did you hear Volkov's out? Just got the notification. Ryan, you need to upgrade your security. Install cameras, get a better alarm system. Already planned. But Carlos, I need you to understand something. If Volkov comes after me or my dogs, I'm not running. I'm not hiding. And I'm not going to wait for the legal system to protect us. Ryan, you can't. I can, and I will. Tell your bosses, tell the DA, tell whoever needs to know. Volkov's had his warning. If he shows up here, he's leaving in a body bag. That's not how the law works. Then the law better make sure he doesn't show up. Because I'm done playing nice with this psychopath. Ryan's second call was to a private security company run by former SEALs. Within 2 days, his property was equipped with military-grade security, cameras with facial recognition, motion sensors, a panic button linked directly to police dispatch and the security company's rapid response team. His third call was to Dr. Chen. I need you to be extra careful. If Volkov knows I've been visiting the clinic regularly, he might target you or your staff to get to me. Ryan, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. This man tortured 12 dogs for 6 months and documented it like a science experiment. He hired hitmen to break into your clinic and steal evidence. He's not sane, and he's not finished. What do I do? Upgrade your security. Vary your routes to work. If you see anything suspicious, call the police immediately. And Chen. Don't be alone with any patients you don't know. Volkov could send someone posing as a client. Over the next 2 weeks, Ryan prepared for war. He established defensive positions on his property. He drilled his staff on emergency protocols. He moved the most vulnerable rescue dogs, the ones too traumatized to handle chaos, to a partner facility in Arizona where Volkov couldn't easily reach them. Hope stayed with Ryan. She was his dog now, bonded and loyal, and besides, she was no longer vulnerable. She was strong, confident, protective. If anything, she was part of Ryan's security now. You know something's coming, don't you, girl? Ryan asked her one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Hope's ears were forward, her body alert. She'd been more vigilant lately, as if sensing Ryan's tension. We'll be ready, Ryan promised. Whatever he tries, we'll be ready. Volkov made his move 3 weeks after his release, and it was more sophisticated than Ryan had anticipated. It started with a fire at the Second Chance K-9 facility, not the main building where Ryan lived, but the training structure where he kept supplies and equipment. The fire department responded quickly, putting it out before it could spread, but the message was clear: I can reach you. 2 days later, Ryan's truck was vandalized, all 4 tires slashed, windows broken, obscene messages spray-painted on the hood. Then, smaller incidents. Phone calls in the middle of the night with no one on the other end. Strange cars driving slowly past his property. Anonymous letters sent to his address with thinly veiled threats. He's trying to wear you down, Martinez said during one of his increasingly frequent visits. Psychological warfare. Make you paranoid, make you react in a way that gets you in legal trouble. It's not going to work, Ryan replied. I've been through worse in actual war zones. A washed-up billionaire playing mind games isn't going to break me. But the harassment was having an effect, and Ryan knew it. His staff were scared. Some of the dogs were reacting to the tension, becoming more anxious and difficult to train. And Ryan's sleep, never great even after retiring, had become almost non-existent. The breaking point came on a Friday night. Ryan was in the main house doing paperwork when Hope started barking, her alert bark, the one that meant threat detected. Ryan grabbed his pistol and moved to the security monitors. A figure was climbing over his back fence, dressed in dark clothes, face covered. Ryan could see something in the person's hand, looked like a bottle with a rag stuffed in it. Molotov cocktail. Ryan didn't hesitate. He activated the panic button, grabbed his tactical vest, and headed out with Hope and Titan at his side. Get him, Ryan commanded, and Hope took off like a missile toward the intruder. The person saw Hope coming and panicked, throwing the Molotov cocktail toward the kennels where Ryan's rescue dogs were housed. The bottle shattered, and flames erupted across the dry grass. But Hope didn't stop. She hit the intruder hard, bearing him to the ground. Ryan was there seconds later, weapon drawn. "Don't move. One twitch and I put a bullet in your skull." The intruder was crying, hands up, clearly not a professional. Ryan zip-tied him, called Hope off, and then ran to deal with the fire. His staff had already responded with extinguishers, and together they got the fire under control before it could reach the kennels. The rescue dogs were scared but unharmed. Police arrived to find Ryan holding the intruder at gunpoint while fire trucks finished dousing the flames. Martinez took one look at the scene inside. "Let me guess. Volkov sent him." "Take a wild guess," Ryan replied. The intruder was a 19-year-old kid from LA, paid $5,000 to throw the firebomb. Under questioning, he admitted Volkov had hired him through an intermediary, promising there'd be no consequences because the target deserved it. "That's it," Martinez said. "We're bringing Volkov in for violating his bail conditions." "You won't make it stick," Ryan predicted. "He used cutouts, paid in cash, made sure there's no direct connection to him." "Maybe. But we have to try." Martinez was right to try, but Ryan was right about the outcome. Volkov's lawyers argued their client had nothing to do with the arson attempt, that the kid was lying to reduce his own sentence. Without hard evidence connecting Volkov to the crime, the judge refused to revoke his bail. But the attack had accomplished something Volkov probably didn't intend: it had united the community around Ryan's cause. Local news covered the story: former Navy SEAL's dog rescue targeted by arsonist. The public outcry was immediate. Donations poured into Second Chance K9. Volunteers showed up to help rebuild the damaged areas. And most importantly, prominent members of the community started asking uncomfortable questions about how a convicted animal abuser was out on bail and apparently orchestrating attacks. The pressure on the appeals court to expedite Volkov's case became intense. The final confrontation came on a rainy November night, 2 months after the arson attempt. Ryan was checking on the dogs before bed when Hope alerted again, this time more intense, more urgent. Every hair on her back was standing up, her teeth bared, a continuous growl rumbling from her chest. "What is it, girl?" Ryan pulled up the security monitors and felt his blood run cold. Volkov himself was at the front gate. He wasn't trying to hide. He stood directly in front of the camera, staring up at it, a cold smile on his face. Behind him were 3 men, professionals this time, not kids. Ryan could see the weapons under their jackets. Ryan's phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, Mr. Daniels," Volkov's voice said, smooth and confident. "I believe we need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about. Get off my property before I call the police." "The police can't help you. My lawyers have assured me that I've done nothing illegal by coming here. I'm simply a citizen visiting another citizen's property." "You're violating a restraining order." "Am I?" "My lawyers tell me that order is currently under appeal and therefore not enforceable." Volkov's smile widened. "Now, are you going to let me in, or am I going to have to invite myself?" Ryan made a quick calculation. He could call the police, but by the time they arrived, Volkov and his men would have either left or already breached the property. He could try to hold the gate, but 4 armed men against 1, even with Hope and Titan, were bad odds. Or he could face Volkov directly, on Ryan's terms, on Ryan's property, with all of Ryan's preparations in place. "Come to the front door," Ryan said. "You. Alone. Your goons stay at the gate." "I don't think. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them." "But Volkov? If you try to force your way onto my property with armed men, I will defend myself. And I guarantee you won't like how that ends." Volkov was silent for a moment. Then, "Very well. Just me. But Mr. Daniels, if anything happens to me, my associates have instructions to burn this place to the ground with you inside. Then you'd better hope I'm feeling hospitable." Ryan watched on the cameras as Volkov approached the front door alone, his men remaining by the gate. Ryan opened the door with his pistol in hand, Hope and Titan flanking him. Volkov looked older than his photos, diminished somehow. Prison and house arrest had taken their toll. "May I come in?" Volkov asked, as if this were a social call. "No. Say what you came to say from there." Volkov's pleasant expression faltered. "I came to make you an offer, Mr. Daniels. A chance to end this unpleasantness between us. The unpleasantness where you tortured 12 dogs and then tried to have me killed. That unpleasantness? I want you to withdraw your testimony. Tell the appeals court you made mistakes, that you aren't certain about what you saw. In exchange, I'll leave you alone. No more harassment, no more attacks. You can run your little rescue operation in peace." Ryan stared at him, momentarily speechless. "You actually think I'd do that? You think I'd let you walk free after what you did? I think you're a pragmatist. I think you understand that I have resources, connections, patience. I can make your life very difficult for a very long time." Volkov gestured at the property. "Or we can end this now. You back off, I back off. Everyone moves on. Here's my counteroffer," Ryan said coldly. "You get back in your car, you leave my property, and you pray that your appeal fails and they send you back to prison. Because if you ever come near me or my dogs again, I won't call the police. I won't file charges. I'll handle it myself. Are you threatening me, Mr. Daniels? I'm making you a promise. The same kind of promise I made to enemies overseas. The kind I always kept." Volkov's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake. I gave you a chance. You gave me nothing but reasons to put you down like the rabid animal you are." Ryan stepped forward, and Hope moved with him, teeth bared. "Now get the hell off my property before I decide that shooting you would be justified self-defense." For just a moment, Volkov's mask slipped. Ryan saw genuine fear in the man's eyes, the realization that he'd pushed the wrong person, that Ryan wasn't someone who could be intimidated or bought. "This isn't over," Volkov said, backing away. "Yes," Ryan replied. "It is. You just don't know it yet." Volkov retreated to his car. Ryan watched until they drove away, then immediately called Martinez. "Volkov was just here. Made threats, tried to get me to recant my testimony. I've got it all on video. Send it to me immediately. This is a direct violation of his bail conditions. We'll have him back in custody by morning." True to Martinez's word, Volkov was arrested before dawn. This time, the judge refused bail entirely. The video of Volkov's threats, combined with the growing pile of evidence connecting him to the harassment campaign, was enough to convince the court that he was a danger to witnesses and the community. The appeal was fast-tracked and denied within 3 weeks. Volkov was returned to prison to serve his 30-year sentence. Ryan attended the hearing where the appeal was rejected. As Volkov was led away, their eyes met one last time. Volkov's expression held only hatred. But Ryan felt nothing but relief. It was finally, truly over. A year after Volkov's return to prison, Second Chance K9 had grown into one of the most successful rescue operations in California. Ryan had expanded to a larger property, hired more staff, and established partnerships with rescues across the country. He'd personally rehabilitated over 50 dogs, most of whom had gone on to successful placements as family pets, service dogs, or working K9s. His success rate with unadoptable dogs was unprecedented, and other trainers regularly came to study his methods. But for Ryan, the most important success was the one lying at his feet as he sat on his porch watching the sunset. Hope was 8 years old now, gray starting to show around her muzzle. The limp from her broken legs was barely noticeable. And the traumatized, broken dog Ryan had carried out of hell had been replaced by a confident, happy, loving companion who helped rehabilitate other traumatized dogs. We did good, didn't we, girl? Ryan asked, scratching her ears. Hope's tail thumped against the porch. Titan had passed away 6 months earlier, peacefully in his sleep at the age of 11. Ryan had buried him on the property under a tree, with a headstone that read, Titan, warrior, partner, friend. Rest easy, old boy. But life continued. New dogs arrived needing help. New staff members joined the team, many of them veterans like Ryan who'd found that working with traumatized animals helped heal their own trauma. Ryan's phone rang. Dr. Chen. Ryan, I've got a case I need your help with. German Shepherd, female, about 3 years old. She was found in a fighting ring, used as a bait dog. She's aggressive, terrified, won't let anyone near her. The shelter wants to euthanize. Ryan smiled. This was his calling now, taking the broken, the scared, the ones everyone else had given up on, and showing them that life could be good again. Send her to me, Ryan said. We'll make it work. We always do. Because that was what Second Chance K9 did. It gave second chances, to dogs like Hope who deserved better than the cruelty they'd endured, and to people like Ryan who needed to believe they could build something good after years of destruction. After he hung up, Ryan looked out at his property, the training facility, the kennels, the dogs playing in the yard. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, from SEAL operator to rescue operator, from warrior to healer. He'd started this mission to save one dog, Hope. But in the process, he'd saved dozens more. And maybe, just maybe, they'd saved him too. What do you think? Ryan asked Hope. Ready to help another one find their way home? Hope stood, her tail wagging, ready for whatever came next. Together, they walked into the training yard, toward the work that gave both of them purpose, toward the future they were building one rescued dog at a time. Behind them, the sun set over the California hills, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. And in that moment, Ryan knew with absolute certainty that he'd found his true calling. Not in war, but in peace. Not in destruction, but in healing. Not in taking lives, but in saving them. And that made all the difference.